Well, we have a great topic for us women who sometimes tend to run men off, drive them away, push them away, and we don't even know it. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Want to welcome back Robert Manni, the author of the Guys Guide to Love and host of Guys Guy Radio. Robert, as always, thanks so much for being here with us.
Always a pleasure, Silka. Thanks for having me back.
Well, we have a great topic right up your alley. Hopefully, it'll be helpful for us women who sometimes tend to run men off, drive them away, push them away, and we don't even know it. So let's go to number one here, not giving him space. They say here that first and foremost, men need space, and that the best way to drive him off is to be extra suffocating. Talk to me about that.
I would agree completely with that. I think for any relationship, you can, if you're a guy, you can be suffocating to your partner also. I think the best relationships are when both people enjoy being together and grow individually. I think whether you're a man or a woman, it's very important in a partnership to be able to allow the other person to flourish.
Yeah, I think this is particularly important for women. I'm not sure why exactly, but women typically, I think, men, the whole man cave thing, and then women follow them in the cave. And that's why, that's why I think these conversations are important because while we might, we know this, or most of us do, we forget about it. We forget what we might be doing. Like, why didn't you text me? Or were you thinking about, I don't know. We just say some really stupid stuff that comes across as not giving him space. So anyway, if you're doing that, stop it or think
Stay out
about
of the
what
cave. Knock
stay
before
out.
you come into the cave.
Here's an interesting one, being a doormat. And that a lot of women feel the need to bend over backwards to cater to a man's every whim. Guilty. That's the way I was raised. It's like you do everything the man wants to do, and that's what makes you a good girlfriend, wife, whatever. And it's really a huge mistake.
Yeah, that's not good because you run the risk of not being appreciated. Everything you do just becomes expected and it doesn't become special. So
Mhm.
you don't want a guy to take you for granted. That's a really bad thing because then he's going to be looking around then and more open to other things that are out there. You want to be special all the time. So you have to push back a little bit. And I think guys, will they'll respect you more if you give them a little bit of challenge on things and ask questions and not just do. You're not supposed to do exactly what a guy tells you to do. You do what you want to do, and if you want to do things with the guy or for the guy, that's great. But be your own person and don't change for the guy. Be the best you can be, but
Mhm.
do it because it's good for you. And if it's good for you, it'll be good for the relationship.
You brought up a key word, respect. That it's different. You lose a certain amount of respect in the eyes of another person when you're constantly catering to them. Like you said, they take you for granted, but they also lose respect. And one of the things that I believe, and we've covered this in other segments, you can't like something that you don't respect, who you don't respect. And we really are self-sabotaging that way unknowingly if we do this. And again, I'm just pointing at me because not only was I raised that way, I still struggle with that because it seems like the nice thing to do, but it's not it really can hurt a relationship. So here, nagging him.
Yeah, I mean the intention is usually a good one when it comes to a woman bringing up some things about the relationship or things that a guy can do to make things better. But a lot of times guys take it the wrong way because many guys they get set in their ways. They're not as open to ideas and they're like, "Oh no, not again." On the flip side, you have to be careful not to. You have to pick your battles. If it
Mm-hmm,
comes down to the really minutia stuff or what
mm-hmm,
is considered minutia for a guy, whether it's putting the toothpaste cap back on and putting the toothpaste away every time, or something like, okay, maybe that's not minutia, but in the grand scheme of things, is that worth a big argument?
right.
Probably not. And what can happen is with the nagging, if the guy's in a bad mood or whatever, anybody, you start nagging them, they're going to be like, they're going to turn off,
Yeah.
or going to turn against you. You have to time your comments, I think, and criticism. And that doesn't mean walking on eggshells. That
Right.
means just like, if you see the guy's having a tough day, okay, just, if he didn't wipe the edge of the sink clean of the water, just give it a rest for that one particular time or something.
Yeah, absolutely. They say here, this is really funny. Ask yourself a couple of different questions to determine whether or not you're a nag. It says,
Ah,
do you feel the need to correct his stupid mistakes every day? I think that is such a great question. And incidentally, for the women watching and who are thinking, well, what about us? We're going to do a segment on, what turns women off and men don't know it. So we try to be, we do always do both
sure.
sides. But today's segment is, what do we need to know?
Mhm.
So let's go on, Robert. Being judgmental, that if he makes mistakes in the relationship, it's perfectly fine to call him out on it. But bringing it up over and over and over again and judging it harshly becomes a real issue.
I think the key there is that when you bring up things from the past, like somebody did something a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever, and then you keep bringing it up, even if something similar to it happens, you don't want to always be dragging up the past. Nobody likes that.
Right. And if something like the category of cheating sort of comes under this, if you're trying to get over infidelity and it just keeps coming up and up, that's really time just get out of the relationship, because it's not going to
Yeah.
work out. At some point, if you just have that need to be judgmental, if you can't get it out of your head, it may be time to get out.
Well, that's a big one. I mean, that to me, that overrides anything else in terms of judging. But I'm talking about more of the smaller, more. I'm not saying minor issues, but if you start judging and bringing up and
Yeah.
part of the judging is always bringing up stuff and throwing it in his face again. That's not going to do anything good. He's just going to be resentful.
Exactly. And I think we all need to be reminded of that. And again, pick your battles. Is this,
Yeah.
is this judgmental, or are you just being too critical? Not getting along with his friends and family. I think that's an important one to remember as well.
Yeah, I think, and it's a two-way street. Also, I think you want to hopefully enjoy the company of his her, or her friends and family. And if
Right.
you don't, you can block him off. And but then he's going to get a little squirrely, you don't want him to feel like he's caged in. So
Yeah.
I would make my very best attempt to try to get along with friends and family. And if you can't, then you avoid them as much as possible. You have to know the boundaries. Your partner has to know that, hey, I'm not comfortable with this person or that person. It's friends is one thing, family is something else, because they're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna, you have the holidays and all of that stuff. With
Right.
friends, they can fall off over time. It's always better to do your best to get along with them, and then you can manage the situation where you can only take them, so you only get them in small doses, particularly the ones that you don't find that much fun, or just they're
Mm-hmm.
fun for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. I think what I would add to that is that, remind everybody, including myself, if you get into a relationship, you are in a relationship with his friends and his family. So if
That's
that's
right.
an issue, then you may want to get out of that relationship. And the other thing is, and they bring this up here, that if you don't want to be around them, ask yourself, are they really idiots? Or just terrible people I don't want to be around? Or am I jealous about the time that he's spending with them? I think that's an issue for women, because when he really likes to be with his buddies in particular, that can bring up feelings of, jealousy and resentment in women.
Well, if he wants to, let's say, and your partner's a golfer, and I was a golfer for many, many years, and that affected my relationship. And it wasn't because I didn't want to be with my partner. It's like I like to play golf, and when you go out to play golf, that's the
Yeah.
day basically, because you got to warm up. You're going to play for 4 hours. You don't just jump in the car and drive home. That's no fun. You want to talk about every hole. I was in a relationship where I took advantage of it. I'd go, bye, I'll see you later, and I
Uh,
came home, and for Saturday night dinner, but I was out all day, and it wasn't
yeah.
fair. I was wrong, and and the relationship no longer exists. So that's one of the reasons why, and it was on me.
Well, thank you for being so candid about that, Robert. And yeah, I would have kicked you out too. You brought up two other points that are important that kind of go along with this, and that is insulting things he loves and then getting in the way of what he really loves to do. We sometimes tend to do that, and by insulting things he loves, well, like most golf, it's not really a sport, when you smoke cigars and ride in a car to drink
Right.
beer, how's that a sport? Have I said that before? And then or just getting in the way of yeah, stuff he really loves to do.
You can't really, you have to manage the things that he likes to do. If you don't like to
Right.
do them, you don't insult him. If he
Mhm.
likes, Black Sabbath or something, let him put the headphones on and go listen. you know if
Black Sabbath.
that's his thing.
Yeah.
Don't insult him, because these are things that could have taken place and probably did take place, some of his likes, before the relationship began.
Yeah, and
And
have
so,
great memories. Have great memories.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, just because, or if he, insults his or talks badly about his sister or his mother, or talks badly about certain friends,
Right.
that doesn't mean that you can. That's a time to just listen, but not pounce on it and agree.
You don't
And
want to
that's a,
pile on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes that's hard to do too. You're right. I saw that all the time.
Yeah.
Finally, you see it. So is another good one too. Insisting that he talk about it. That's, yeah, that men would rather just clam up than be forced to talk about something.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because if you insist, then sometimes you get the clam up. And
Right.
I think one of the challenges for women there's a lot of guys who are not emotionally available. And so you either have to work your magic to open them up, or I think look elsewhere, because you want to have somebody you can feel free to, again, you don't
Mhm.
want to be in a relationship where you feel like you're walking on eggshells. You don't
Right.
deserve that. No
Right.
woman deserves that. Guys don't deserve it either. So you have to find the timing to get him to open up
Mhm.
and talk about things. And then know if there's a disagreement.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get into a discussion and you have your point of view and he has his perspective, and then that's it. You keep going and he's like, well, this is my perspective.
Yeah.
And you keep going and he doesn't know what else to say. And sometimes it's the
Yeah.
snowball going down the hill. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes, frankly, sometimes women sometimes have to be aware of that
Yeah.
this is what he thinks, and you're not going to squeeze any new thinking out of him, and you either accept it or disagree
Yeah.
or agree, or just say, okay, this is what
Mhm.
he thinks,
Yeah.
because that's kind of how the male mind is wired, it seems, where they'll give you a perspective, but they, sometimes going deep, it depends on the subject. They'll go deep on some stuff, but on some other things, it's just going to lay it out there and that's it.
Yeah. Like his feelings. One last one here before we close, but giving him ultimatums. This is so important. Again, this is something that we should already all know, that if you give anyone, for that matter, an ultimatum, whatever that relationship is, it's pretty much over, because that's like a last chance attempt at changing some kind of behavior, which will only change temporarily if it's an ultimatum. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, guys definitely don't like that. And I don't think women like that either. Who likes an ultimatum? Now, if it's a situation where, you're either going to fish or cut bait with the relationship, make it happen or not, you don't want it to come across as an ultimatum, but you want to lay it on the line so the guy knows that this is a real issue.
Yeah.
And this could be a deal breaker. So I have to respond in a way that shows how I feel. I want to mention one other thing, if I may, Silka, because you mentioned
Sure.
getting guys to talk about their feelings. Sometimes guys don't want to talk about about their feelings because they feel they're going to be judged.
Mhm.
So I think women have to be mindful of the fact that guys don't talk about their feelings very much, and they don't talk about their feelings with other guys. They'll
Mhm.
show emotion, but they don't talk
Right.
about I feel this or that. That doesn't happen, as far as in my world, at least, with the
Mhm.
friends I've had over the years. So you have to be careful in terms of getting the guy to open up and talk about how he feels about stuff, because they
Yeah.
don't want to be judged as being like, oh, if I, being weak, or that you're going to judge them on
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that.
Yeah, or that his feelings are wrong somehow. That
Yeah.
if you want him, a lot of times we want to talk with men, and we already have an outcome in our head of how we want that conversation to go. And if it does,
Right.
yeah, there's lots of stuff to think about. Again, we can talk about this all day. Robert, we are at the end. Anything you want to add on this topic
Yeah.
before we close?
Well, you can never, yeah, and it's just a follow up on that last point is you can never, whether it's a man or a woman, make somebody feel the way you want them to feel. They're going to
Yeah.
feel the way they feel, and that's just the way it is. I say, love yourself. Don't change for anybody else. Don't change for a guy, but understand that maybe based on who they are and what they are and how they were raised, that the way they express themselves is going to be a little bit different. You might have to take, if you're a woman, a little bit more time getting them to open up. Whereas with your girlfriends, you'll talk about anything easily.
Yeah.
Guys are not like that, and they
Yeah.
need a little help. They need the a little bit of oil and grease on the gears to get going.
Get some lubrication, not that kind.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that could work also.
Robert, thank you so much. As always, we will link to all of your information to your radio show now on UK Health Radio, and then your book right there. Guys Guide to Love, great book. It always makes a great gift. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again, Robert, and I look forward to our next talk on Second Act TV.
Me too. Thank you, Silka.